Mark Jackson's with us, former Broncos wide receiver. Did you hate the Raiders when you played?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
It's inbred.
Right?
I played. Remember, I played in the '80s, so the rivalry was kind of dying off, but there was still enough to where my rookie year in 1986, we're playing the Raiders opening day at home. I'm a 6th-round draft choice. I make the team. I'm excited, loving life. Get to play it. I'm backing up Vance Johnson. That week, he and Lester Hayes were going at it in the newspaper, and I think he said something to the effect that Lester Hayes stutters. He kind of made a joke about Lester Hayes stuttering. Well, Lester didn't like that very much. So as the game goes on in the second quarter, Vance tried to chop block Lester, and the play was away from him. And I'm watching him because I'm backing him up, and I see them on the ground kind of tussling, and I'm like, hey, the whistle's blown. The play's over, right? This is my first year in the league. I'm thinking, like regular football, right? And well, Vance comes running off the sideline. That son of a tried to rip my eyeballs out. And, his face is bleeding. And, I'm like, they're screaming, Jackson, get in there. And I'm thinking, do I really want to go in to a football game against this? Because, you guys followed the Raiders back then. Lester Hayes was kind of a different guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But later in the game, I actually caught a pass against him on a 3rd and 8. Kind of iced the game. It was under 2 minutes. We got the first down, and he actually picked me up and gave me a hand up. And it was just he didn't take a liking to Vance, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a different time. The previous years it was really a bigger rivalry than it is. And I think that's kind of waned a bit with the Raiders being not as good as they have been in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, mostly in the 70s. And now, I think a lot of the young guys kind of forgot the intense rivalry that it was.
Former Broncos receiver Mark Jackson is with us playing golf September 7th here in town. Big golf tournament. We'll mention all the celebrities who are out there, but it's a Raiders versus Broncos grudge match. You can register at ilifestyleglobal.com. What was it like catching like a true fastball? Like the really hard pass from John Elway?
I think in the drive, if people can remember back that far in 1986, it was the 86 season, but it was actually in January of 87. We're playing Cleveland, and drove 98.5 yards, and I catch a slant route in the end zone. And John said afterwards that's the hardest he's ever thrown a football. It was basically third and 6, I believe. And he just didn't want anybody else to catch the ball. If I didn't catch it, he felt like he had another play and another chance to get into the end zone. We were down in that game by 7. And it was one of those plays where I was actually rubbing. It was a pick route. I will use the proper term now because no officials can call me on it. But we called it a rub.
Yeah.
But he never thrown me the ball on that play. So I run my slant, make the linebacker run over the top of me, and he usually throws it out in the flat. And he didn't throw it out to the flat. And I turned around and looked to see what the heck's going on. Thought maybe it got sacked or something. And he just wound up, man. And Elway, of course, was a first-round draft choice of the New York Yankees in 1981. So the guy had a cannon, and he just fired. That was probably the hardest ball that I've ever seen. And my whole goal was just to get underneath it. Did a little hook slide, got underneath it, and tied the game up. We went into overtime.
So if I remember correctly, too, 86, was that your rookie year? So that's kind of a big moment at the end of your rookie year, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah, something strange, man, that you talk about that. My rookie year was much like any other year to me, and I think that's what kind of separates pros from amateurs is this. You can call it confidence, you can call it poise, you can call it a lot of different things. Blood flowing or ice flowing through your veins. I call it naive. It was so routine to me that I didn't realize, this is an AFC championship game. Neither teams have been to the Super Bowl, and the Broncos since '77. So this, a pretty significant pass, play, time. None of that's going through my mind. All that's going through my mind is, where's the ball? Why didn't John throw it out? And then I see him cranking it up. It's like, oh boy, here we go. and his eyeballs are about the size of saucers as he launched that ball.
You go to the Super Bowl. You guys don't play that well. The Giants win. Do you look back on it and you're like, man, that drive, that game was such a big win. Maybe we weren't ready emotionally. Like, it was just, like the Super Bowl was almost kind of a letdown when you made it?
I wasn't as wise as I am now. I didn't have the experience of watching teams and being a part of things like that. But, you have a valid point. It was a very, very emotional game. It was, in Cleveland Stadium. It was, the series before Brennan catches a pass, Dennis Smith falls down, and he just, walks into the end zone, and the stadium erupted. And that pretty much should have iced the game with, I think, 2:33 in the game. And then Kim Bell muffs the kickoff. So it leaves us at about the 1.5-yard line. So there was a lot that went into that. And I'm not sure if that was the sole factor, but, we played a pretty tight game. I'm not sure what the final score. I think it was 16-10. It was a touchdown game. There were some plays that were in there. I think if we had instant review back then or instant replay back then, the game would have turned out differently. There's a play where Dennis Smith just totally clobbers Mark Bavaro in the end zone, and he coughs up the ball, and it falls right into the lap, basically, literally into the stomach of Phil McConkey, who's laying on the ground.
Yep.
So it's like, it was just kind of like destiny for New York Giants to win that. But, who knows? It's called football, right?
Oh, yeah. And then you think the next two, because you guys went to the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years, but you think the next two times it was just like, hey, the teams in the NFC that came out of, because that conference was great, you just think it was one of those cases where you guys were just up against it against all-time great teams?
Yeah, it was. It was pretty, once again, looking back in hindsight, during that time, of course, you feel like you can beat anybody, and I felt like we could. We probably matched up best against the 49ers, who beat us the worst. But, opening play against the Redskins the very next year, John hits Ricky on a 9 route, and we scored. I think it's still probably the fastest score in NFL history. Scored from the 45, our own 45, 40, and you think, all right, here we go. But we didn't have very much defense. It wasn't one of those, Broncos Super Bowl 50 defense where they actually won the game for us. It was more of a, bend but not break defense, and they were breaking, man. It was just Timmy Smith left, Timmy Smith right. Art Monk, Gary Clark, Sanders. It seemed like they were clicking on every freaking cylinder after Doug Williams got hit and went down. We thought it was over, but you look at football, man. I think that's why people love the sport. Is every day, any given Sunday is a cliche, but it's so true that any given Sunday, one team can beat the other.
You can play golf with Mark Jackson and a collection of Raiders and Broncos legends. It's September 7th. The website is ilifestyleglobal.com. Last one for you. We got to get you on the biggest topic with us this week, since we're going to be the Raiders town next year. This is a loaded question. What do you make of what's going on with Antonio Brown in the helmet?
I do a show here in Denver, and we do a thing called Role Play Wednesdays, and I got to play the role of Antonio Brown's feet. You guys are probably like, what? Huh?
I get it.
Everything that's going on there is strange and unusual, and guess what? That's pretty much what the Raiders are, strange and unusual. So it's kind of par for the course. You look at the guys that they brought in, Montez Burfict, Incognito, Antonio Brown. It almost is a throwback to, the Raiders of the 70s, where they were the bad boys and, sit on your helmet, spit, cuss, do whatever the heck you need to do to win a game. Just win, baby. So, man, I don't know if Gruden put this together on purpose or if it's kind of fallen into place. It's still, on Sunday, when the ball's kicked off, it's going to come down to talent, not just how crazy you are. So it can be dysfunctional crazy, or it can be very functional if they can put it together.
Hey, Mark, we appreciate the time. We're looking forward to seeing you here in town. Thank you so much.